Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Weapon Refined Theorycrafting. It's been a while, hasn't it? I've been trying to slow down this a bit because I don't want to get to the point where the series would be less fun to make. It's definitely the series I have the most fun making, so I don't want to spoil it after a while. So here we go. Starting up, this is probably the one that's the least interesting, but alright, so the idea behind bolting is obviously we can't have three attack weapons because those are fucking broken, especially on a horse. So what I did was the next closest thing. Bolting is a type of skill that, well, your enemy can't hit back and you yourself can't hit back yourself, so fire sweep is just as consistent as possible. As for the in combat against a foe that uses magic or staff, unit makes a guaranteed follow-up attack. That's to refer to Nino, because on promotion Nino also gets staves. Now, the reason why it's for Nino is because she basically wanted to kill Jafar and Nino. I did not want to include dagger units because Jafar's refine is literally meant to kill her, as it completely disables mages from hitting her, from hitting back rather. Ugh. But so I did not include Jafar. Sorry. As for the second effect, this is based on Sonya. Since since she has complete devotion over Sonya, I decided to give her a second effect based on having a caster next to her. She's probably going to be a blue mage herself, considering she uses an ice tome, but then again we don't really have anything similar in the game yet, so it could be really anything. I'm hoping Sonya's gonna be green, green. Because just the same way Blizzard was in build, but at the same time you have Bruno that also had an ice tome, and fuck if I know. It's just really difficult to see what's going to happen. Either way, if unit is within 2 space of magic ally and unit initiates combat, grants attack and speed +6. Now this is really strong already, but you have to realize one thing. First off, it only works on initiation. Second, Ursula's base attack and speed are piss poor at best. Like, genuinely piss poor. The base effect is there to fix the fact that our defense is shaky. Like, fairly shaky. And the second effect is there to you know, fix up her attack and speed to a decent amount. Because, let's be honest, 29 attack and 32 speed isn't great, and the merge update only gave her 1 speed, 1 res, and 1 HP. That's a problem, because at that point, 29-33 is inferior to an attack plus Olwen. Olwen has better stats. Olwen. In a world where La Rochelle exists, you know, the one that can just go speed plus for 33, 34. That one. Alright. So, you know, she needs to have an edge, but at the same time, the fact that her base stats are so low forces her to go into a pref. Which is good in a way, because the fact that she has a pref to resort to means La Rochelle will be a better Blade Tome user. Or Ivaldi, if that ever gets refined to something worth a shit. Who knows? But at the same time, Ursula does have her niche. As for the second effect, it's basically Flashing Blade. This is so she can actually run other things. Though keep in mind, it's not as broken as it sounds. The only type of special she'll be able to just straight out dish out every time will be 2 cooldown specials, or a 3 cooldown special if, you know, Actor is on the field giving her 1 charge, ironically enough. But that will only work once. Two cooldown skills like Glimmer with a base of 49 attack only if you are next to a mage, and obviously you have buffs on there, is shaky at best. And Moonbow is also shaky at best since not a lot of people have very high res to really make it work. So yeah. It's a good refine, but it's not nearly as broken as it looks. If it was literally anyone else than Ursula, okay, this weapon would be considered broken. Like, if that was Larachel's weapon, that would be broken as shit. Because Larachel has 3 more attack and 1 more speed, basically. No, 4 more attack and 1 more speed. At that point, I would just be probably lowering the attack and speed increase. But anyway, so that's it for this one. This was probably the least interesting one. I'm kind of sorry. It's kind of hard to come up with something when the stats are just that, well, to put it frankly, pathetic. And I don't expect Saias to give her any kind of chance when she does get a refine, but this is not about what Saias might do, this is about what I consider should be done. Moving on to Saias, and if you remember what I did with Arvis, which by the way he doesn't have a single fucking cipher card, Saias that is. What I did with Arvis was to give him a blizzard effect as the refine. You know, Guntra's weapon, where you take the debuffs and make them extra damage for you. The reason why I did this with Arvis and not Saias is because Saias has less attack and speed by 1 point. Not much, of course, but it's still worth mentioning. So I wanted to make him more aggressive, whereas Saias I wanted him to be more of an all-rounder. Not to mention, it's more of a tactician. Basically ploying people to ambush them after. And yes, he is a tactician. As a matter of fact, Reinhardt mentions him not once, but twice in his dialogue. Base Reinhardt, that is. If you talk to him in the castle, he has a quote talking about Saias, how he was basically one of the greatest tactician Thracia has ever known. And then he has another quote, if you poke him on his status screen, where he's just like talking about Saias like he was a god presiding over war. Which, a bit overblown, considering. And obviously there's this quote. Saias is a bishop of the Bragi Church, with a high position in the court of Veltomer, and one of the greatest tactician in the history of Jugrel. He is kind and friendly to everyone he meets. So what did I do with him? Well, I hope you guys are familiar with the skill bonus doubler, because I decided to do a penalty doubler, in a way. I'm basically debuffing whatever it is, and if I'm fighting this unit that's debuffed, I take his debuff and add them as buff to me. So for instance, if say I'm fighting Surtur and he lost 7 res because of chill res, I get 7 attack on top of it. So you lose 7 res, I gain 7 attack. And obviously I'm going to keep his ploy, so essentially what it is an extra... If he does ploy someone, he gets an extra 4 attack, 5 speed, 5 def, and 4 res. Which is really fantastic because it gives him enough def to take hits if needed. It gives him desperation. It gives him more damage. His speed becomes consistently helpful, because minus 5 speed on the enemy side, plus 5 speed on your side. Still have your A slot, still have your seal slot. It opens so many more options than what he currently has. And it fits, it's basically just a tactician. Well, tactician, what? Tactician's duty? I don't know. Basically debuffing the ally for your friends, but also when needed stepping in to deal a killing blow. Anyway. Let's move on to Joshua. And Joshua has probably the one that was the most wild to do when it comes down to refine. This is a really good refine, but also a double-edged refine. Very double-edged. I like to call this all or nothing. So, Adolma doesn't have much in Sacred Stones. It's just 5 res and it's effective against monsters. I could have went the boring way and made the refine just effective against beast. But that's just dumb. It doesn't really help him in any way. So what I did was a all or nothing. Since he's really into gambling, I decided to make him gamble his stats away, basically. If he doesn't have up to 12 buff, well, he loses 7 to all stats. For instance, if he only has a buff in attack by 6, then he loses 7 attack, speed, def, res. However, if you have 6 attack and 6 speed, the first effect also kicks in, which means they both deleted themselves. However, if you have 18 buffs by proxy of Seth or Titania, now it gets interesting. Because now you get 7 to all stats for free. So say you have 6 attack, 6 speed, 6 def buff. Obviously I'm only considering visible buffs. Then now you get an extra 7 to all stats. This is a double-edged sword, however, because if you get panicked, you are fucked. Let me put it this way. If you have 6 to all stats, you also get an extra 7 to all stat because of his weapon. That means 13 stats in all stats. This is really good. It's basically a slightly better Exalted Falchion than Marth, right? So far so good. Because the problem with Mars Falchion is it's effective against dragons, speed +3, and that's it. So it's great against dragons, that is true. But the second you take dragons out of the pictures, it's a lot worse. It's just a speed +3 weapon outside of bonus doubler. That said, Joshua has cooldown -1, which is a lot more consistently helpful. However, say you get Panic-Ployed. Suddenly those +13 to all stat becomes -13 to all stat because you are gonna be in the negative. You won't have 12 buff anymore. So, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. It will bite you in the ass if you don't take care of yourself. And his HP is low enough that it's actually a big detriment to him. But at the same time, it has such high payoff, it does work. I just wanted to make something that really worked with this character, and that was basically the best idea I had. So, yeah. You understand also, when it comes down to FE7 and FE8, there's not much, and also FE6, there's not much I can do. The characters don't have a whole lot that is unique to them. They just have skills, and that's great and all, but... Well, actually, they don't even have skill until FE8. But even in FE8, it's kinda just, eh. It doesn't really work all that well, all that consistently. But, yeah. Let's move on to Arthur. Don't look at me like this. This is literally the only fucking cipher he has that's, you know, that got a full art. I don't know why, it just is. So, Misfortunate is pref skill in Fates. What that does is basically debuff, well, debuff himself, but also debuff enemies for bigger numbers. So I decided to apply this in a different way because I can't really just be like, ooh, it debuffs him by -3 in like 2 stats, and and debuffs the enemy by -9. Like, that doesn't work. So what I did is the base effect is a reverse hard blade. I decided to base this on Christmas Ephraim. The thing with Christmas Ephraim, however, is yes, it is a good weapon. It is a fairly fucking good weapon. However, it also has cooldown -1, and that's what makes him so much better. And for Arthur, it kind of makes sense. He doesn't want to be near his ally, because if he's near his ally, he's gonna just bring misfortune to them. So him being alone makes sense. It just reinforces the way you're meant to use him. You're meant to use him as like a flank debuffer, while your allies come in and kill them. That said, even if he's just next to you, or next to an ally, it can still work. Because yes, you lose 4 attack and death, but the enemy lose, well, that also, but also 4 speed and res. So if you're using this with a dragon, for example, at this point it's just a straight buff to them. It is a bit shaky, but it works. And at the same time, the stat that he does lose, because he does lose the 4 attack and death, is recouped if he's alone. So you can also combo that with another solo skill or something similar. I wanted to go for something that buffed every stat, because Arthur's stat line is very all over the place, which can be a good thing. It can be a good thing. As you can see, 30 def, 24 res, so if he has no one next to him, that's 34 def and 28 res. Unbuffed, unmerged. You get the idea. So all I wanted to really do with this is just everything that's around them gets debuffed, be it foes or enemy. As for the whole getting stats when no one's around, that means he just doesn't have to be as wary of his friends anymore. So bad luck doesn't bite him in the ass. That's the best way I can put it, really. And moving on to Sam Grace's boy, god damn it, Julius. So I want you to take a moment and realize just how broken Julius is in that game. Julius is the final boss of that game. Has 80 HP, 25 def, and 35 res. So far so good. 27 speed in that game is massive, and so is 27 skill. What else does he have? Pursuit, that allows him to double if he has 1 more speed than the enemy. Charge, that allows him to go for multiple rounds of battle. That's kind of nasty. Wrath, we all know what Wrath is, but essentially once you're hurt, well, you kind of just always crit. I believe that's how it worked in FE4, or is it FE5? I think it's FE4. And Nihil literally cancels crits and skills. So you have this fucking fortress already, right? Let's get even dumber, okay? Let's read what the weapon does. Has a bonus of 5 resistance to its user. All enemy attack before defense related stats are applied. To put it in layman's term, if you have someone with 53 attack, which is about as high as you can make it with a 30 might weapon, 53 attack, if you're fighting Julius, your attack drops to 26. You do 1 damage to Julius. This is how bulky he is. It's no exaggeration to say he's the absolute strongest tank of the series. So imagine how I felt when I saw the fucking base weapon. For those who have been around when I was actually working on not the refine, the banner review of when he came home at last, you can imagine my temper being a bit explosive that day. And you'll be right. Because Julius is quite literally a tank, and for a unit with 25 def and 30 res, 16 def and 38 res does not cut it. I am absolutely sorry, but fuck out of here with that shit. So what I did to fix this is to make the fact that he has so much res, which is his biggest downfall, his biggest boon. So first off, I also changed the base effect. I changed it from if foe has no skill with effective against dragons, inflict attack -6 on foe during combat. I changed that to inflict attack -6 to foes within 2 space during combat, unless foe has a skill with effective against dragon. Now, you might wonder what the hell is the difference. The difference is quite simple. This is a drive debuff. If anyone is around the general vicinity of Julius, they will lose 6 attack unless they're using a fortune, legendary Tiki, Naga, you know, that kind of stuff. The reason why I made that change is because Tarja has a -4 -4 attack and speed debuff as a drive. It's kind of retarded to have a -6 attack only to yourself when then you have Tarja debuffing 2 stats by 4 for multiple foes at once on top of a blade tome. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. No. Get that shit out of my face. So, what did I do for the effect? Well, at start of combat, if foe has no skill with effective against dragons, as per usual, I'm basically taking the whole Naga part. Because the only way to kill Julius in FE4 is to have Julia. If Julia is dead, reset. You literally cannot beat this game without Julia. Or you can, and it's extremely painful because you have to rely on innumerable pain in the ass RNG to possibly get crits. It's bad. It's bad. Don't do it. Don't fucking do it. So that's why I still want him to be losing against fortune users, dragon killers, you know, because it's a neat little reference to how he acts in his game. However, the problem is when you have a really big drawback like this and no payoff, which is the problem with the base weapon. -6 attack to only yourself is laughable at best, honestly, and Tarja exists, completely making the weapon irrelevant in most cases, just because Tarja does everything this does without any restriction, without having any problem against dragons, dragon killers rather, and just overall have more death, so you can actually make use of that. Julius does struggle in that regard. So that's why I ended up changing this and actually give him a payoff for a change. So what I did was quite simple. Boost units' def by 30% of units' res. To put it simply, if Julius has 40 res, that's 12 extra defense point. That's right. You jump to 28 defense. The biggest problem Julius has is his def and then his speed. His speed will still be a problem. However, this would promote you into you know, using something similar to, well, close counter. If you use close counter with, say, 44 res, or actually, let's go for a plus 10, okay? Let's go for a plus 10. So that's 43 res because of the merge update, 49 res because of, well, res tactic. That's 14 def. Okay? You go from 16 to 30 defense. You have attack def bond with close counter. That's 35 def. You have his weapon pushing his def by 6. That's 41 def. Hey, look at that! You're actually able to tank stuff now. That's good. That's really good. I would actually build Julius if that was the case. So yeah. This is like as good as I could make it, really. Without it being absolutely broken. I wanted to make it 50%, but then I realized, holy shit, that's retarded. Because I don't want him to have 50 plus defense, that's a bit much. But it's good. It allows him to have a bit more flexibility and work as the tank he was meant to be. A tank with a lot of attack, def, and res. Now, he doesn't have the speed of his game, but at this point he does have... Something had to go, right? Because his magic, skill, speed, def, and res are all fucking fantastic stat. HP too, so... It's kind of hard to translate all of that, is the problem. But... This is a good way to differentiate him from the rest. So... I hope you enjoyed. And I'm gonna see you all later. Have a nice one, everyone.